Hi, my name's Mark and welcome back to the channel. Today we are heading to the Shetland Islands. We're currently on the ferry making our journey through the night, treated to the most beautiful weather possible. So stick around and we'll explore all sorts of things Shetland has to offer.
So my initial plan was to give you the sound and the sight of our walk down to this beach. And the wind was just crazy. I knew it was going to be windy, but I still thought maybe you'd hear the whipping of the wind through the camera microphone, but it's really just wild. So instead, I'm going to talk you through a bit of this, and please bear with the shakiness of the camera. Again, I was trying to be as still and smooth as possible, but with the wind and the elements here, it looks like we're watching Barefoot Contessa. So, adorable sheep here. The sheep on one side have already been shorn. The sheep on the other side of the walkway are much more woolly. And none of the sheep want to be our friends. We're just trying to make friends, but so far they're not interested. And here we are down at the beach where we get a bit of sun. Unfortunately, the sun is going to tuck behind a cloud for the next portion of the video, but you get a sample of it here. And it's just extremely, astoundingly beautiful.
So here we are, we've arrived and we are on Minn Beach.
Yep.
And this is just steps away from our Airbnb, Duck Rubbit. And I forget the town we're in. I don't even know.
I don't know if I'm saying it right.
Yeah.
Papil.
Papil. And we are in Borough, West Borough, East
Borough.
Borough. So we are, I think, technically on a different island from the mainland.
We had to drive over. So there's the main Shetland Island, and then we drove through a different island called Eastborough. Then we drove to our island, Westborough, and it feels like we are at the end of the world. To get to the beach, the road stopped, and we had to get out of the car and walk here. And that's the Atlantic Ocean behind us.
So the sun's setting right now, and it's sort of behind a cloud, but hopefully it'll come back out so you can see some more of it. I filmed our walk down here, so hopefully you'll see and experience a bit of what we're experiencing. The wind is not vicious, but strong. And so we're holding on to hats. It's actually okay down here on the beach because we're surrounded by the farmland.
Yeah, it's a low beach.
So we've stepped down to the beach, which makes this a little more bearable. We're not blowing away, but the walk down, you'll probably hear from the camera, is vicious wind, ripping through your jacket, whatever. And I'm wearing shorts. I'll step back. We just got here, and I've got boots, shorts and boots. We needed to do laundry, and this is one of the first places where we've had a dedicated washing machine. And so I washed everything, and I was left with a button-down shirt, a sweater, and a pair of shorts, and my boots. So here we are. We just wanted to come down. It's our first night here in Shetland, and hopefully, again, you'll see a little bit more of the sunset, but we just wanted to talk about our first impressions. So something I noticed immediately when we were visiting the museum, I think the Heritage Museum, and then the Textile Museum, there's fiber and fiber arts, knitwear everywhere, which is really incredible. And a good portion of it is hand knit, and another large portion is machine knit, but you see the traditional Shetland patterns and you see the traditional Fair Isle patterns everywhere.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
What I thought was interesting was that the Shetland knitting patterns are pretty plain. There's not much intricacy like they have on Fair Isle. But what I loved was learning about Shetland tweed, which is, if you're familiar with Harris tweed, the felted woven material. And the lady in the shop that we visited, where I bought a tote bag made of Shetland tweed, was saying that it's really a dying art because the last person who does commercial work of Shetland tweed just retired. And so unless someone takes up the mantle of learning how to do this work on Shetland, we may not ever see that again, which is pretty sad, but also just incredible to think about how important folk art is to not only the economy of an island, but culture.
Yeah. So we were walking through some of the main city streets of Lerwick where the ferry let us off. And we did pop into Jameson Smith and Jameson's, and we're going back to both to shop. And tomorrow we're doing a mill tour at Jameson's of Shetland in Sandnes. And so I'm thrilled for that. We're thrilled to take you with us to see all sorts of behind the scenes and hear a little bit about the family that still maintains that business. I think they're in their 5th generation now of people maintaining Jameson's of Shetland. But as we walked through the main streets, there were at least 10 stores that carried knitwear. Some of them also carried fiber, wool, yarn, but so many of them had, I'm assuming, machine knit fair isle. So you could buy a sweater made from Shetland wool. You could buy a kep. You could buy mittens, gloves, fingerless gloves, things like that, which was so impressive that like everywhere you look, there's more yarn, there's more fiber, there's more color work.
Yeah, there was a lot of handmade stuff too, though.
And a lot of handmade things, of course.
Which I thought was incredible because you always say how it's not profitable.
It's very difficult to be profitable with any sort of handmade knit or crochet if you're using a natural fiber, especially if you're using acrylic or using yarn that you were able to find on clearance somewhere, then you have a bit more of a profit margin. But if you're trying to use something, especially here, a lot of the tags on the items will boast that it's 100% guaranteed Shetland wool. So it's coming from the animals here on Shetland. And so that's not terribly inexpensive. That's still at a cost. So we think about the hours that go into it, the supplies themselves, and then turning a profit, and depending on what cut you get and what cut the store gets, I don't know how terribly profitable it still is to do by hand, but there are quite a few hand knit things. So we'll look at tags and we'll see hand knit and it will say by whom, and then others that say handmade. And typically when I'm looking at things, if it says it's handmade, I'm thinking it's machine knit and hand finished, hand cranked. So it's still a handmade item. But if I'm seeing a sweater, it doesn't necessarily mean that someone has knit with their 2 hands every stitch. They're machine knitting, which still, if you're a machine knitter, you know how much work goes into that and how much time goes into it, and skill. Yeah. So it's just exciting to walk through and see a city street filled with shops selling colorwork sweaters
and yarn,
woven bags, tweed, yarn. It's exciting.
It was incredible to walk into a store that was not a yarn shop, and they were just selling yarn. I thought that's so fun.
Yeah.
So here we are inside our very cozy Airbnb, and we wanted to show you a couple of the things that we did pick up in our first day strolling through town. So the first is a little bit of bunting, and I thought this was really cute. Ned found it in the shop
in Jameson's
and suggested that we pick some out to go home with us. Yeah. So it's fair isle that I think has been reinforced and then cut out with a backing.
It's reinforced on the back.
Yeah, so it's backed on felt, little heart, fair isle. I'll show you up close here. And we thought this would be beautiful to put maybe in the craft room and then maybe out in the rest of the house, like the mantle of the fireplace.
And they're cute little hearts, and I love how each one is different.
So I'll give you another close-up look here just to see sort of the difference in the designs. I think they're really charming. Yeah. And it would be something fun to do on your own. If you like to do color work or fair isle, you could make a piece of it and then reinforce and trim them all.
And it's probably a fun way to upcycle old sweaters that don't fit anymore or are too damaged to fix.
Yeah, absolutely. Potentially later in the week, we'll be visiting someone on Shetland that does work with upcycling fair isle fabric. So I don't want to say it yet, just in case it doesn't come through and happen, but hopefully we'll be coming to you with a video in the coming weeks, coming months, about one project on Shetland where people do upcycle fair isle, or things that people have spent a lot of time on, and maybe it's been damaged, maybe it doesn't fit, maybe it's not exactly your style, but you've received it as sort of an heirloom knit, and then they repurpose these things.
Yeah. Well, this is the bag that I got that I was talking about, and it came from a really cute shop called Loose Ends, which was right in the center of Lerwick. And this is an example of Shetland tweed, which we learned from the shopkeeper is a dying art, as I mentioned, on the beach. And apparently there was only one artisan who was still doing it for commercial use, using the commercial loom. And she retired just before COVID. And so, like, what's left is left. And so in this shop, they had a few of these tote bags, and each one was different. And it's just really nice. It's got a nice wide bottom. And I love that there's a cute little pocket inside. And it says it was handcrafted in Shetland by Silver Eye Crafts. So that's who made it. And I guess she's also a big quilter. So if any of you are quilters, check out Silver Eye Crafts. But it's really beautiful. It's a grayish green. Mark will show you up close. And it's got little beautiful colors. There's yellows and oranges and purples. It's really nice.
Yeah, I think it's a great souvenir.
Yeah.
Earlier in the trip, when we were in Fort William, Scotland, we saw Harris tweed bags, Harris tweed tote bags. So they were very simple totes, and they also had very simple straps. And you looked at some of them and you were drawn to them as a possible souvenir, but they didn't feel terribly sturdy, and the straps also weren't long enough for you to actually put it over your arm to tote it. So when we saw these today, I think they were cheaper, much more sturdy, and we were happy that it's an example of Shetland tweed that we can have a piece of. Yeah. So I think it's a great souvenir.
And if we ever go to the island of Harris, I'm sure we could get Harris tweed tote bags there.
Yeah. And the last thing I wanted to show, this is not something we purchased, but it's something I might go back and purchase before the end of the trip. But it was here at the Airbnb, and it's a notebook that's covered with Fair Isle. So the front and back of this blank notebook that you could use for sketches, writing, notes, field notes, whatever, is so cute that it's like upholstered. It's wrapped with probably machine knit, but you could do hand knit Fair Isle, which I just thought was so cool. So I'll show this up close as well. And it's tempting. I might want to go back with one or two of these. It would make a great gift for a knitter or someone that appreciates handcrafts.
We did see them in one of the shops.
Yeah, we saw them in a few different places. So it's something I'm tempted to get, but also something I'm tempted to try to recreate in the future using my own piece, my own sort of tube of Fair Isle that I knit, and then reinforcing it and trying to wrap a notebook of my own. And I think it would be a really cool notebook for knitting notes. So we'll see. Maybe that's something I'll try to do on the channel and recreate in the coming year once I'm back home. So I think that's all for our show and tell. We're going to pass you back to us at the beach, where we'll say a little bit more.
So we're thrilled to be here. We drove from Lerwick to Burra, and it was maybe about 20 minutes. I'm learning to drive a stick shift as I go, and we made it.
He did a good job.
We haven't wrecked. We haven't broken the car. I'm learning bit by bit as I go. And as we drove, it was just breathtakingly beautiful. You see water from almost every vantage point because these are islands, and so many of the islands are small off of the mainland. So as you're driving along, you might see water on each side of you as you go, and then another island across from you. And there are so many sheep, and there are so many horses and Shetland ponies. So hopefully during the week, we'll get to see much more of that up close. Hopefully we'll be treated to more clear weather, clear enough to get a camera out and share this with you.
And I don't know if you can tell, speaking of the water, if you can tell, but the water here is like, it looks like we're in the Caribbean. Like it's crystal clear blue, turquoise, and you can see to the bottom. It's so gorgeous. And I didn't know what to expect, but it certainly wasn't this.
Yeah. And as soon as we walked down to the beach this morning, before we could check into our Airbnb, we met a couple, and they had just been for a swim. And I think they asked us, "Oh, are you going for a swim?" And we said, maybe, maybe not. And they said, no, it's not terrible. It's not that cold, actually. And so we have swimsuits. And so I think if we get a beautiful day where we feel a little bit more warmth than we're feeling right now, it's nighttime, obviously, we might come for a swim.
Yeah.
So we're thrilled. We're really excited to be here. So let us know. Let us know in the comments if you've been to Shetland, if you're familiar with these islands and some of the traditions, some of the culture that takes place here. And I hope that as we make these videos, we're not misstepping too much. So I'm always happy to hear from someone in the comments if we've said something that's not exactly true or doesn't align with what's actually going on. So let me know. I'll pin your comment or make sure that it's shared in the next update. Yeah. So good night from us here on Shetland in day 1. And we look forward to sharing all sorts of things with you throughout the week.
Good night.
Thanks for being here.
Bye.
As always, thank you so much for being with us today. I hope there was something in the video you enjoyed, whether it was seeing a little bit of the beach, seeing the sheep, nature, a look at Shetland, or seeing a couple of the sort of souvenirs and handcrafts, the weaving, the tweed, the knitting that we saw today in Shetland. So thanks for being here with us. I hope you'll come back for future Shetland videos and other videos from our big United Kingdom adventure. And you know how to find me. I'm posting a lot on Instagram during the trip. I'm trying to post every day. And I'm over on Patreon. Thank you so much to all the Patreon supporters. You help make this channel possible. You make it all go round. So thank you. I'm truly indebted to you. Is that the word?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So thanks for being here with us. Happy knitting, happy crocheting, happy crafting to you. And hopefully we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.